So good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Sabian Symbols meeting. I will be your facilitator today, trying to give some rest to Richard's voice, I guess. And today's topic is about Neptune. So we have a little, James has decided on a different arrangement for the meeting. So we'll be focusing on different planets each meeting. And today we will talk about Neptune. James?
Okay, thanks. I'm changing the process on Wednesdays. We've been doing Sabian symbols expressions, and we will include that, but we will do that a little bit more quickly. And also I want to introduce the idea that every time we meet, we introduce our name and our sun signs Sabian symbol. Just very quickly, like this. I'm James, old man attempting vainly to reveal the mysteries. Richard.
I'm Richard, information in the symbol of an autumn leaf.
Anna.
Anna, an albatross feeding from the hand.
Katrina.
Katrina, a performer of a mystery play.
Linda.
I don't have my phone. I'm Linda. Is it two Dutch children talking, I think?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Do you want me to check it, or are you happy with that?
It sounds right, but you can check it. I could grab my phone. I don't know. Am I going to need to know my Neptune?
That would be helpful, yes.
Not
Okay.
necessary, but two Dutch children talking is confirmed. Loic, yours?
Loic, a man teaching new forms for old symbols.
And Heidi?
IG, a butterfly with the right wing more perfectly formed.
Great. The reason I'm doing this, and I want to do this again and again and again and again, is so that we can each learn each other's. So that we just associate this Sabian symbol with this person, and we start to get a real sense of what it is. Because we pick up a lot of information just from the presence of a person. Even if somebody doesn't start speaking, doesn't express any opinion, nevertheless, as soon as you see them, you know quite a lot about them. Even if you don't feel them, you can see them on Zoom, we still pick up a lot of information. If you were with them face to face, there'd be a lot more because you could smell them. And I know that sounds strange, but I bet that's really central, and they would be responding to your smell and so on. That's something that we can't get on Zoom, but the other stuff we can. We don't normally touch people before we know them quite well, so that's not a factor in this particular thing. And one of the things which I'm wanting to step up is our intensity of involvement with the knowledge. We've been playing around with this stuff for a few months, and it's been good fun getting to know each other, getting to know something about the symbols. But there's so much more to learn, and I want to start getting into that now. And I've got a few tricks of the trade, as it were, to help us to do that. And one of the things I'm going to do is to link it in with a beginner's level of astrology. It'll be good for us to learn astrology at a certain beginner's level anyway. It's a great language to use. And also it's a very powerful symbol. And if we understand what is meant, for example, by today's symbol of Neptune, and we look at Neptune in the Sabian degree that we will be studying tonight, that brings a depth and a subtlety to the understanding of the Sabian degree, as well as the planet Neptune, and as well as yourself. All of the things that we're doing within this whole group of meetings leads to one eventual goal, and that's what we are calling elven consciousness. And that's the idea that we know ourselves really well, in great subtlety, in great detail, and we can express that because we've developed the language of expressing that. And that language is Sabian symbols. And we can do that in 7 different ways simultaneously. When we can do that, then we move into alone consciousness. Could I ask you, Linda, to stop agreeing with me?
Okay. It's a habit. Sorry.
Just listen. Okay, so let me just ask you all if you can come up with some suggested keywords which you associate with the word Neptune. It don't have to be astrology. Anything you think of which is related to the word Neptune. Heidi.
Heidi, you're muted. Heidi, you're muted.
Just before I tuned in, I read this sentence that anxiety is the unused music of Neptune. I thought it was particularly beautiful.
The first word was anxiety?
That anxiety is the unused music of Neptune in our chart. Beautiful, right?
That's lovely. So if you don't lose your Neptune, you're going to become anxious. And all you have to do is to be Neptunian and anxiety disappears. Isn't that?
Make music. Music, so that's
Yeah.
a key word for me.
That's beautiful, isn't it? So music, okay. More.
Fantasy.
Fantasy.
Exactly. That's my keyword for Neptune, fantasy.
Fantasy. Loic.
I'm always associating Neptune with 7, the number 7.
Number 7, yeah. That's always going to be a popular answer for me. I think you can understand.
Dreams.
Heidi.
Subconscious mind, archetypes, healing.
Incomprehensible.
Good. More?
Ocean, water,
The sea. Yeah.
Mystery.
poetry, art,
How about deep?
Imagination.
Hmm.
substances,
Say again, please.
substances, like drugs.
Substances like drugs, okay.
Glamour, maybe? And bliss or perfection, notions of perfection.
When I think of the ocean, I think of diversity. I don't know if that's a Neptune thing, but that's an ocean thing for me.
Yep, everything that's been said so far, I'm very happy with it all. I agree with it all. And I think that there is an overarching sense of what we're talking about. There's a sense of a reality which is different from that which a scientist would measure. The imagination takes us into dream world, for example, when we're sleeping. It feels real when we're there. The ocean looks amazingly beautiful from a distance, but actually when you get close to it, it's pretty horrible, isn't it? You know, you can't drink it, you can't survive in it, it'll kill you. You know, diversity of course, music, fantasy, the subconscious mind, archetype of healing, bliss. What I'd like to focus on most of all is glamour. And from the astrological viewpoint, we're studying what Alice Bailey would have said about Neptune. She wrote a nice book on Neptune and focused on this whole idea that reality itself is not the same for any two people. It's a subjective experience for us all. We actually make it up. There's just too much to enter our perceptive mechanisms. We can't get it. And it's all subjective anyway. How we observe something is an aspect of the function of perception. And this is a scientific fact. This is what Heisenberg and so on were talking about 100 years ago, that light is either a particle or a wave according to which you want it to be. I don't know how many of you care about that experiment, but whichever you look for, whether you want a light things to be a probability wave or a thing, it's not certain which it is until you decide to measure it. And whichever you set up an experiment to measure it, you can't set that experiment up without shoving in an expectation, and you'll get what you expect. That's a scientific paradox almost. Now that's Neptunian. We get what we expect to get. That's the process of Neptunian reality, and it's present within the Christian teaching as seek and you shall find. And that doesn't mean if you look for your shirt you'll find it. It means whatever you're expecting to find, that's what you get. It also means, and this is very, very rarely discussed, what you get is what you have expected to find. That's not the same wisdom. Think it through. One is creative. I'm looking for that, so I expect to have it. Cause, effect. Another is a higher level of wisdom. This is what I've got, therefore I must have brought it into being. Mm-hmm. It's not anybody else's fault. I brought this on myself. I've got it, therefore I must have been seeking for it. That changes your whole reality. Mm-hmm. So what Alice Bailey was specifically pointing to is that we all have a glamour, a favorite glamour. We've all got an image of ourselves which we project into the world. And my guess is we've got versions of that, several versions for different types of situations. But there is an underlying kind of version, who we think we are. And the truth is that we're not that. That's our glamour. That's what we're presenting to the world. Now, very often the word glamour is associated with women putting on lipstick and a pretty dress to make themselves more alluring, and men doing whatever they do with their toilet. There's much, much more to it than that. We project our image into the world, hoping that people are going to buy into it. But it's not real. It's not really us. It's a version of us, but it's the glamour of us, the illusion of us. And as we go through Neptune experiences, we become disillusioned. So Neptune is associated with illusion and disillusionment. And most people would be thinking of disillusionment as a negative thing. And a person in consciousness of Neptune would want there to be disillusionment because they don't want to see the lie. They want to see a deeper version of the truth. Now, some of the glamours that we present to the world are typical. So those of us that are proud of our, and I want you to think carefully now, which applies to you, and it might be more than one. Which of my descriptions now fits your life? So some of us are proud of our physical strength. That's called the glamour of the athlete. The glamour of the renegade is typified by isolation, aloneness, and aloofness. Do you know that word, aloofness?
Yes.
Yeah. The narcissistic wound is the love of being loved. The martyr is into self-sacrifice. The trickster is somebody who is an active schemer.
I don't know that word, sorry. Schemer?
Schemer, somebody who makes plans, manipulative plans, tricks,
okay.
schemes. An impoverished artist does their creative work. The poets, the artists, the musician. We've got a load of those in Ireland, the musicians that are lost in their art and never get paid. the holy warrior, somebody who promotes conflict by promoting the idea of peace and impossible righteousness, something unattainable spiritually. The psychic, somebody who believes that they're having psychic perception instead of just intuition. They get all spooky, like, oh, I had this vision, and it's just a feeling. That's the psychic. The scientist is caught up in the idea that materiality is real. The emotional performer, sentimentality is their currency. Oh, you said that to me. Oh, you did that to me. And the workshop leaders who believe in themselves as the teachers and the saviors of the world. It's great that she put that one in, considering who was going to read all this stuff. Okay, so speak up. Tell me which you think you are.
Well, this is hard. So obviously the scientist, that has to do with my job, but probably on a more deep level, I would say the self-sacrifice, maybe.
Okay, thank you.
Is it possible for this to change over time?
Talk to us about now.
Just right now, okay.
Is Loic looking to present?
I don't have mine. Renegade.
Sorry.
Okay. I find that quite easily understood.
Yeah.
Heidi.
Heidi, you're muted. Muted. Heidi.
Can you repeat the last one, James?
The
last-
Renegade? The last in the list.
Yeah, the last one you mentioned just after.
The workshop leader, the teachers, and the people who think they're saving the world savior.
I mean, I've done so many of these things. Like I worked with the book. I would say the closest now, maybe Renegade. Yeah.
Okay. Back to Linda. No?
When you first started listing them, so many sounded like I could say yes. There were some definitely no's, but I didn't have one that, and now I can't retain. I was listening for the whole thing and I didn't write any notes, so now I don't remember the names.
I'll go through them very quickly. Athlete, renegade, narcissistic, wound, martyr, trickster, impoverished artist, holy warrior, psychic scientist, emotional performer, workshop leader.
The one that I hate to admit probably is the holy warrior.
That's it. Okay. Do you ever pontificate with your friends?
I have been accused of being sanctimonious.
That's
That was
it. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, you can have that one. That'll be a good. All right. Katrina, Richard.
I've tried many of them on me. I think I have been, this athlete, narcissist, loner, renegade, and holy warrior. All these more or less fit.
And which would embarrass you most?
Narcissist. I hate narcissists.
Let's work with that one then today. What are you going to go for, Richard?
I've got 4, but I think the one that's most up for me right now is probably workshop leader.
Yeah, me too. Surprise,
I have
surprise.
to change mine. Like,
What's yours now, Heidi?
I'm definitely a workshop leader. Not a renegade anymore.
They're very different, aren't they? You can't do both of those at the same time, can you?
No, an impoverished artist doesn't work anymore either. I've done that one.
Yeah, exactly. That's a path, a definite path. Renegade to impoverished artist to workshop leader, you know. And then you got to sort of go into sanctimonious holy warrior for a little while, and then you got to come back to the leader. It's a very definite path there.
Hey, James, is that list with the definitions, is that on your site?
It might not be.
Okay, I just wanted to read it and think about it more later.
I will put it on my site.
Okay.
Or send it to you.
Okay.
No, better put it on the site, because then everybody can look.
It is definitely going on the site, and I don't know whether I want to do that immediately. What I'm doing is preparing a list of exercises, and they're all going to be available on the site, so anyone can facilitate this material using these exercises that I'm developing. So this is the first of those. So I just haven't done the webpage yet, but Richard will remind me to make sure you all get it. Okay, now what Anna has kindly agreed to do is for us to see if we can link this idea of glamour with the position of Neptune in our horoscope. So Anna, your Neptune is at
Sagittarius 13 degrees.
Which is?
A widow's past is brought to light.
Have you studied that one very much yourself? That Sabian mystery?
Just a little bit, to be honest.
What's your take? What's your take on it?
To me, it resonates the end of a cycle, and just doing sort of looking back and see what has happened, what have I done, what have I taken from this experience. And it's not any experience, right? It's your life experience, because you were married and now you became a widow. So it has something to do with your identity that shifted. So you were and I don't know why you can marry and the next day the guy dies, but for me this is something that went on for so many times. So she was a widow she was a married woman for a long time, and now that period of her life has ended, and she has a lot to assess, to look back and to think what happened, what have I taken from this experience. So this is what resonates for me. Again, time and the end of a cycle.
Yeah, it's good. Very good. Any more comments from people about this particular degree, if you're familiar with it?
It's making me think about my mom, who just became a widow, and the thought of what is she going through. I'm glad you spoke about it, because I'm going to try to be more open and curious and sensitive to what she's going through as a widow.
I think you'll find the wisdom of the degree rather startling in some ways, because it's not only about the correct and profound and subtle interpretation, which I think Anna has given us, that there is this huge change of life. It's very much to do with completion. Like she has to come to terms with the fact that that part of her life is finished. She can't get it back. And there's a completion process necessary before she can move on, because you may be familiar with the three states of womanhood: the maiden, the mother, and the crone. Is this a phrase that you're familiar with?
Yes.
Maiden, mother, crone. Katrina, are you familiar with this
Yes.
word, crone?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got the maiden, who's like young and vibrant, and then she gets to be a mother, and she's loving and compassionate and caring and working hard and so on. And then she's a crone, and that final period of her woman's life is powerful. Typically, the power of her womb which was used once to attract a mate and then to create kids, is now used for a different purpose. And it is said in the pagan tradition that the womb of the crone is the cauldron of Cerridwen. It's a mystery in Celtic lore. The cauldron of Cerridwen is the magical thing in Shakespeare, hubble, double, toil and trouble, the witch's cauldron. It's about women particularly stoking up creative power, which is no longer given over to sex or babies. It's given over to magic, actually. So we're talking about moving into a powerful era of a woman's life as she moves from being a mother to being a crone. And although a widow is not necessarily aligned with the menopause, there's this kind of sense in which a widow is an older woman than a wife. It's not legitimate, but we have that metaphor, don't we? However, the Sabian degree is saying this, that when we see a widow and she dresses herself up in black, perhaps for a whole lifetime. In Lithuania, you could see these women who were dressed in black for a lifetime. Less so now, but in Sicily and maybe in Portugal still, Anna, do you ever see widows staying in black for a lifetime? Yeah. And okay, that sounds really understandable, but actually there's an element of this which is self-pity. And we're not allowed to talk about that because the poor widow has lost her husband. She's sitting by the grave. She's in desperate fear of the future and sadness and grief. And, so we're not allowed to talk about the fact that she's putting it on a bit thick, as we say. She's laying it on thick with the widow's weeds, this black uniform for a lifetime. She claims self-pity by doing that. And there's a part of us which is saying, like, no, my dear widow, we do have compassion for you, but you still got to pay your bills. You still got to pick up your karmic debt. Whatever you've done wrong in the past is still coming to you. You're not forgiven your debts. That's the mystery of this degree. We've got to pay the price for everything we've done, even though we might want to get away with it. And when Pluto was in this position, something extraordinary and historical changed in our whole culture. Can anybody know or remember or imagine what that might be? It was 9/11. Until that time, America was still considered the good guys by a lot of the world. Mm-hmm. And then because of that event, everything changed, and now they're not. It rewrote history, that event, and that took place when Pluto went through Sagittarius 13. And the thing is that Americans, what percentage of Americans said yes to this question? Do you think 9/11 had anything to do with American foreign policy? How many people in America said yes to that question? Your guesses?
I can tell you, I got into a huge argument at a family dinner because of this, what question you're asking, because I was the only one who brought that up and I was really chastised.
So answer the question. What percentage of Americans thought they were
not a big percentage. I don't know the number, but it was not maybe
I want everyone
10%?
to say a number, a silly guess.
Okay, 10%.
You said 10, Linda?
10.
Heidi said 20, Loic?
I hope 20 at least.
Loic?
I say 15.
15.
2.
2.
75.
75. God, Richard, what a difference. 2 to 75. You think the Americans are self-reflective, self-responsible people? God bless your optimism. The answer is 2%. Only
Wow.
1 in every 50 Americans thought that 9/11 was a result of their foreign policy. In Europe, how many people answered yes to the question?
Probably 75.
Still only 50. Still only 50.
Oh, okay.
And you go to the Middle East and it would be 95, wouldn't it? You know. Now,
Yeah.
think about that. It's 2% to 95%. Wow, what's going on here? The spiritual truth is that everything that you're experiencing right now in your life is a direct result of everything you've done before. That's the nature of reality. Every single event in your life is your fault. Or to your merit, to your credit, whichever you want to do with it. You know, perceive it the way you want to perceive it, but it isn't anyone else's fault. It's no one else to thank or to blame. Everything you get, it comes from you. So, Anna, bearing in mind these two attitudes to the interpretation, and neither is particularly right or wrong. Yours is lovely, compassionate, and profoundly wise, I would say. Mine is a little bit more gritty, a little bit more sharp, and is probably closer to what Jones and Rudyard have spoken of, but that doesn't make it right. It just makes it different. Can you relate these understandings to your glamours, the scientist and the martyr?
Not the scientist, but the
martyr.
The martyr. Okay. Yes.
It's absolute, isn't it? The equation is absolute. This widow at the open grave is playing the martyr. Oh, look at me, I'm wearing black. Be nice to me, pity me, I'm having a hard time and I'm suffering. Oh, hear me suffering. You know, I can cry if you want me to at will. I don't mean to be cruel, but, you know, come on. We all lose people, you know. And what's she doing, building her life so completely on the basis of one man so that if he disappears, she's ruined? What nonsense is that? Well, that's the nonsense the Roman Catholic Church wants everybody to buy into, but we're esotericists, so we don't. So what about that then? Do you think that your martyrdom is done and dusted? Is that the end of the question, or is it something you'd like to change?
In what sense?
Do you like being a martyr?
I don't think anyone likes to be a martyr.
Well, martyrs do. That's why they've chosen it. That's the whole thing.
I come from a family of martyrs. That's why I asked you, can these things change? Because I was definitely.
Let's not move the focus away from Anna.
Okay.
She doesn't want to discuss this, which is, I mean, you should be loving this, you know, right now, because you're a martyr. I mean, you know, this kind of negative.
No, I actually don't like the martyr role.
You know,
to be honest, I don't value it. If I see it in other people, it comes to my mind that we sometimes take on roles that we don't really understand what we're doing. So, because it's like Katrina said regarding the narcissist, I hate narcissists, and yet I do identify with that role. And here it is the same. I'm feeling the same. If I'm playing the martyr, then I don't like it because I hate martyrs. I don't.
Yeah. Okay. So here we have Neptune playing its very paradoxical game. It's typical. What you've just said is typical. I mean, what I said was, which of these images makes you the most embarrassed? You know, and that gives you a clue. We're all a little bit embarrassed by the glamours that we're using, because there's some part of us that knows that authenticity is good and that which is not authentic isn't. We know that. We're inherently truthful beings. So whenever we do something which is the slightest bit inauthentic, then there's this body statement. The body says, whoa, hang on a sec, that's not true. The body's job is to tell us the truth. So if we do something, if we've got a lifestyle which is actually wrong, what the body does, very kindly, it kills us. That's its purpose, is to kill us off if we're doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And it will make us ill first so that we've got a few warnings. But anyone who dies has been living wrong, basically. Now, if they die when they're 1,000 years old, they've probably been living right and eating the right food and doing yoga every day, and most particularly only thinking positive thoughts. But we don't. We think negative thoughts. We eat shit. We do bad things. We blame people and all that horrible stuff. And then we die because we've done all that stuff. So the body's job is to tell you the truth. And when we admit our glamour, our hoax, our lie to the world, we become embarrassed. So because we don't like the feeling of embarrassment, we try and not do that too much to reduce the hoax. We won't ever be able to tell the whole truth. It's just not a part of the human condition to be able to do that. It's just not the way we're built. But we can actually minimize untruth. We don't know what the whole truth is. It's not real, it's a concept. But we can minimize untruth. And we don't know what the truth is, but we do know what untruth is. And untruth is stressful to the body. It makes us bring blood to the face. It makes us bring moisture to the hands, pain to the gut. It does all sorts of other things when we're telling untruth. And all of those things leads us to a more speedy death. So it does us quite a lot of good to unpick the glamour that Neptune tells us about. Thank you, Anna. Let's go through one or two other ones. Does anybody else have a sense? Yes, Anna?
Can I just ask something? How does this relate with the sign that's in? I mean,
What, Sagittarius and not Scorpio, you mean?
Yeah.
It's not as easily described by these outer planets. The outer planets move so slowly that they represent generational qualities. So typically with Neptune, it's like very often the music of the era, because the music that we're into is our collective glamour. So when my generation was into Neptune in Libra, we were all talking about love, harmony, and beauty, and isn't the world like a great place, and we're all into peace. And that was our generation. We were the hippies, and then the punks came along and more or less said, "Fuck you, hippies! The world's a shit place. Neptune's in Scorpio, and we're going to spit at you by way of entertainment." They actually did that on stage, you know. And so Neptune and Sagittarius generation comes along, and they said, "Look, you hippies, you punks, dance for God's sake." And they introduced this style of dancing, doom, 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 doom. And like, you know, that's ugly music, but you get into the club and you get lost in that music, and you transport yourself to another world. And that did not take place in the previous degrees of Neptune. So the Neptune and Sagittarius group of people, as a group, not necessarily the individuals, are into psytrance music and so on, you know, where you lose it, and they're getting into ecstasy, not acid, which gives you a demonstration of the nature of reality, or even dope, which let's like cool it down, man. It was ecstasy, like, I love everyone, but it's specifically I love music, and actually I love everyone in theory, but I'm actually into the music. I don't really love anyone, not really. I love everyone. I mean, I love everyone and I love nobody. It's the same statement, isn't it? Really, you know. So that fantasy world is, you know, Neptune. And then you've got Neptune in Capricorn people. They were all into making it big, weren't they? They were into making lots of money and being important and being successful and so on, you know. Glorifying, I don't know whether there was any music at all for that generation. It doesn't sound very likely that I'd enjoy it. So there, all right. Okay, shall we try somebody else's Neptune? Anybody want to go?
I will go, because so we're looking at the sun and then all of the planets under that, right? So like
wrong. We're looking at your Neptune.
Right, but there's the The Neptune.
The 21st degree of Scorpio.
Yeah, right. Yep.
Do you want me to
Which
tell
is-
you what that is?
Well, no, I saw it and it made me laugh because it was it was right what I said, right? It was the holy, what did you call it? The holy, I forget now.
Holy warrior is what we called
Holy
it.
warrior, right? And then this is the conscientious objection.
Exactly.
And it just made me laugh to see it. And the whole conversation that you just had with Anna too, it brought up that's what the 9/11 moment was for me, was the conscientious objector, at the dinner table, trying to say, no, it's about us. And
Lovely.
yeah, it all just lines right up.
So at the dinner party, you were seen as somebody who disagreed with the war machine, that America
Right.
was responsible for it. So you were seen as somebody to lock up because you weren't prepared to go to war to defend your country. Conscientious objector. Exactly your Neptune degree.
Yeah.
That's really quite striking. Well done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fits.
So is there a sense in which you overdo it? This sanctimonious part of you just goes.
Sure.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the suggestion is that you don't overdo it.
Right.
Do it a little bit, but not too much. That's.
It's been a thing that I've been learning about, when Trump became president, I got a lot of practice.
Overdoing it, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if I'm going to be better at the next, cycle of our next election.
Well,
Hopefully Trump's not involved.
we all pray for that, I hope. But the thing is that there's a collective side to all of this. The world that elected Trump was aware that there was something undisclosed. There was some lie going on.
Right.
And actually, even though he's a narcissistic, God knows what, he nevertheless brought attention to something that was otherwise swept under the carpet.
Yes.
He wasn't subject to the puppet masters that are running the other presidents.
Right.
That's
Yeah, I've come to see that a lot more now during the time of COVID. I'm starting to see the other side.
And he actually was the first person to try and stop China because of his business connections. If you actually see the growth of the wealth of China during the last 20 years, it's staggering. It's a shock if you see it. And he was the first to speak up against it, because if you make a lot of money, eventually become the military power in the world. And he's the first to speak against the fact that China's threatening America's stability as the military dictator. And that's his job. I mean, his first job is to protect American interests. And for me to be speaking in favor of Trump is an extraordinary event. I don't think you'll hear that ever again, but trying to balance things. Anyway, wonderful, Linda. Yeah, wonderful. Okay, somebody else? Heidi, where's your Neptune?
My Neptune is at 503, so I must say 6 Capricorn. A dark archway with 10 logs at the bottom. And you write something really beautiful about it, that it's completion and learning the relationship between beginnings and endings. For me personally, that's where my illusions die. I've been working with that psychologically to learn to love the middle part, like the 3 p.m. of the afternoon when things get boring, because I'm quite in love with beginnings. And I love the kick of an ending because it gives you all the stuff to create from. So it really hit me in the face, this idea of finishing what we start, and the power that gives actually when you complete something. And it also, there's two things that can happen, right? You can get what you want, or you cannot get it. And if you don't get it, there's still the whole ocean of expectancy that is to come. But sometimes you get what you want, and then you see it's not that you wanted. So it speaks to me a lot. Maybe you have something to offer, James?
It's a very reluctant lesson, this one, because beginnings and endings are actually the same thing. An ending is just a beginning a few minutes early, isn't it? You know, but the middle bit is actually dealing with that which we don't want to deal with, getting the job done, dotting the I's, crossing the T's, really doing it. And what then we do, if we know we're invested in being somebody who completes things, what then happens is we do something with the voice. We only ever speak of a project that we intend to complete. Can you see how, you know, if you are a completing person, then you will not begin something if it's inappropriate. And most people will say, oh, I'll do that without meaning anything by it, especially in Ireland. So you start to talk with gravitas. You start to say, when I say something, you can count on that happening. If I say I will meet you there and then, I will be there. If I say I will do that, I will do that. If I will pay you that, I will pay you that. And you start to put that into your voice, and you develop the gravitas, which ties in with being a workshop leader. There's a load of workshop leaders in the world, but there aren't that many that people will actually take seriously. And the ones that you take seriously are the ones with gravitas, the ones that do what they say they're going to do. Because if they actually say something and it doesn't happen, then whatever they say about the truth, that won't happen either. That's not the truth, therefore. So you have to learn to complete things to be a believable workshop leader. And the illusion that we're talking about here, that Alice Bailey is talking about, she's not talking about the real teachers. She's talking about the charlatans. You know, the ones, I'm the world's savior, you know, I'm teaching you what the truth is. That's what she's taking the piss out of. All of her friends, in other words, in the theosophy world, you know. The real teachers are the people that say, yes, I'll do that, and you know it will get done. And for you to have this as Capricorn 6 as your Neptune, it suggests that you can go beyond the shallow level of interpretation of this illusion, and you can take it to the next level. So you become somebody that says, I have the gravitas necessary to complete this. And when you get to complete it, you know, you've already known since the very beginning that it won't do the job. It won't give you the satisfaction that you imagined it would. But you also know that without that paradox, you won't move any direction. You've got to believe it's going to make a difference in order to do anything. But you know that when you get there, it'll just lead to another horizon. And you know that. And you live with this fool's wisdom of acting as though it matters when you know it won't.
That's beautiful. Yeah, it's a yogic principle in a way as well, that like to do it for the work itself, for the process of doing it. And that's something that comes to me a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
That it's more important to do it for love and with love, and to love the process. Yeah.
Yeah, and in Hindu philosophy, success and failure are the same event.
Yeah. Success.
We've spoken of that. So yeah, good. Yeah, well done. Nicely put.
Thank you.
All right, next. Noak.
So mine is Neptune, Capricorn, 17. A girl surreptitiously bathing in the nude. How I interpret that for me is I associate that with the sacredness of my voice, or the nakedness of my voice. I think that for me, when I was younger, I repressed a lot of my voice per se, the wholeness of my voice, or what people will call intuition, or some kind of feelings that I have that I didn't really express. And going into this journey, I learned that trusting that voice is actually really good for me. And so when I read this degree, it was really connected to accepting the nakedness and the wholeness of that voice and share it. And I tend to keep what I know for myself and not share it. So that's what I get from this degree.
That's lovely, yeah, lovely interpretation. And I think when you do share in this group, there's always a little bit more than I expect, even. And I've come to expect things of you, but there's always a little bit more. I always think, oh yeah, you know, you always add something to my understanding. And I think for you to have felt cautious about sharing that is appropriate. It's not everybody that would hear that. An interesting fact that relates to this is that this is the most popular of all of my videos.
Huh.
And the only reason is because it contains the word nude. It's people looking for a very soft level pornography that they come to this one. And I get, you know, 98% of the people leave go away, but you know, I capture 1 in 50 people and I give them wisdom instead of porn. But it's like that, you know, the nakedness of your voice, you know, when we all sing, in fact, when we all share, like in this group, there's this uncovering, revealing, unveiling of self that requires an innocence. And that's the image here. She's innocent, she's surreptitious, she don't want to be seen. She knows it's naughty to be nude. Has any of you gone skinny dipping midnight, you know, in some swimming pool? Yeah. I did that. Yeah, it's great. I did that with my sister once when I was 16, she was 18, and we just broke into this hotel and we went swimming naked in their swimming pool, and it was so naughty, you know. And that's what this girl is doing. She's saying, look, society cannot inhibit me from being naked and innocent and free. It's not pornography. It's not naughty, and it's just natural. But society's made it wrong. And that's the same with our voice. We don't speak honestly because society doesn't want to hear it. But we must if we want to claim our innocence again. So, you know, it's a strong image, and it's exactly ties in with the renegade image. This is the image of the renegade, isn't it?
Yeah.
But an innocent girl renegade, not, you know, a man with a gun, but, you know, the other way of doing it. You know, it's a perfect alignment.
Mm-hmm. Agree.
Yeah. Lovely. Another one.
No, it comes to me, but I'm sorry. I know my degree. It's Scorpio 2122. Hunter is shooting wild ducks, but unfortunately, I cannot recall what was there. So.
What do you mean? What was there? That's your Neptune position. You're saying, is it?
Yeah.
And what do you mean? What was there?
What was there on the videos, or what I could. Could have read about it. I have read, but I don't have a clue now. I cannot remember what it was about.
Okay, and so it didn't really obviously line up with your narcissistic image. We'll have to look at that. But the thing is that we're all hunter-gatherers recently, and we've only been civilized for a very short period of time. And the hunter-gatherers' instinctual inclination was to kill or die. You know, when you have to kill an animal or starve, then you kill. You know, and the idea of us being vegetarians and vegans and everything, yeah, that's okay. If there's plenty of fruits around, we can do that. But if you're hungry, you kill, you know, and that's not embarrassing. It's not wrong. It shouldn't be illegal, because the opposite is dying. So the hunters are aware that that primitive instinct within us is still there, and they go out and they do something about that. So we're not only really talking, and in fact, we're not really talking about violence per se, not killing things. We're talking about having primitive instincts. Now, one of the primitive instincts of a maiden, for example, is to know that the more beautiful she is, the more powerful she is, the more her chances exist of survival.
Mhm.
I bet the pretty girls had a better chance of survival than those who weren't so pretty. It's obvious, isn't it? Because a man is more likely to take care of and feed a pretty young woman than he is somebody who isn't pretty. And so the narcissistic attitude, which promotes this showing your best, you know, a narcissist is going to dress up to look her best, presumably. It's the love of being loved.
Mhm.
It's a survival instinct, isn't it? That narcissism. Can you see that? You seem not to see that.
Yeah, it makes connection with this. Yeah, everything you said now. Yes, it is the way how you can survive if you know the power of it. And but the one thing is, it is also dependent on upbringing. I think in the family, how if it is appreciated, either by dad or by.
I think it depends upon whether the boys start to look at you when you want them to look at you.
And yeah, but first it is even earlier.
Well, it may be that you want your dad to look at you, but it's to do with men wanting to have sex with you.
Okay, yes, but it is later. I think because I was as a kid was very observant, and I noticed that whenever we went on the beach with our family, and I could have been maybe some 4 or 5 years old, and I noticed how my mom and dad are going, and everybody's and how mom attracts all those sights to her, and dad is very proud of her. I saw this somehow. It was not healthy, but I saw that it works somehow. You get attention, and that was very early in my childhood. So
okay, and I can see why, therefore, you're bound to inherit that. But I can assure you that even if they did not do that, you would still have that going on. It's just so natural. A woman is programmed at a very deep level to know that if she's giving a man a baby, he's got a greater chance of feeding her. It's
yeah.
very simple animal stuff, you know. It's not civilized, it's not politically correct, and that's a part of it. But yeah, in your case, your dad was proud of his woman being beautiful.
Mm-hmm. And I had the feeling that I have to be the same as my mom. It works.
And what about today?
Today, what?
Well, do you still want to be looked at by men?
Oh, but it's not the most important thing. I'm really embarrassed about this feeling, because it's a pleasant feeling, but it's not. I don't want to think about it.
That's it. That's exactly what we're studying. The embarrassment that we feel for wanting something that we think we shouldn't really want. That's it. It's exactly what we're
but I can say that when I don't have it, when I don't get this attention, then I can concentrate on more serious things. You know, it's better for me.
And then when a man enters the room?
No. At this age, I think I have solved this problem. Okay, maybe I just I'm honest. I think that sometimes, yes, if I have some time, or I want to have some time to allot some time to this, but these days I try not to, because then I can't get to the things which are very important to me. So
How many of us in this group tried to make ourselves look a little bit prettier for this group?
no, now you are talking about other things.
I'm not.
No?
I'm not. We all try and make ourselves look a little bit more attractive.
Yeah, this honestly, I can tell you before I go here to meet you, this is my instinct not to go in my pajamas, put something on my face. It's just an instinct to do this.
That's right, the instinct of the narcissistic wound. And we all
Yeah,
have to do
okay then. Exactly. I do it. I can't go.
Well, look, we all do it. We all do them all, actually. It's just that we're caught up in one of them in particular, typically, but it's not, we're not free, any of us, from all of it, or at least a lot of it, you know. And there are others as well. You know, this isn't the complete list, really, or Anna.
Sorry to interrupt, but I just had a question. I think it comes, it combines with what Katrina said. To what extent do these expressions, are they connected to us individually, or are they more a collective expression? Because since we're talking about Neptune, and Neptune has such a slow transit, so there's lots of people with Neptune in Scorpio 22, so, and not just Katrina. So how do these touch us individually or not?
During your year at school, when you have formed all of these neurotic tendencies, Neptune would have been probably in one of any 5 degrees. 80% of your school friends would have a range of 5. So let's say you know 10, 20 people relatively well at school, well enough to know how they are, maybe 30. It would still only be maybe 5 or 6 that would have exactly the same as you. And they'd have other relationships with it because of their sun and moon. You know, we are individual within this group understanding of what Neptune's doing. We're individual in our interpretations within that. But of course, every generation is going to have its own special brand of illusion. In my world, you got a lot of kudos if you knew poets like Leonard Cohen and Bob Dylan, and you could quote the prophet from Khalil Gibran, and you know, when I went to university parties, that was what I did to try and get the attention of girls. You know, if I sang Bob Dylan and Leonard Cohen at parties nowadays, I wouldn't get anyone wanting to talk.
Oh, you got me. I love Leonard Cohen is my most favorite poet and singer.
It would still work.
But I'm approximately your age, maybe, I don't know. But no, I'm not your age. But anyway, Cohen.
I promise you, I would not do it at a party. I would do it somewhere else. I wouldn't do it at a party. It wouldn't. Whereas I would at university. That was the thing. That's how I got attention at university.
Yeah.
Bob Dylan, you know. All right, Richard. Let's see what you got.
Scorpio 3. A house raising. And I think that's it's maybe a cultural term. I don't know if it's probably familiar in America, but less so elsewhere in the world.
Yeah, barn raising is what they call it in America, although the community would get together and put up somebody's house for them.
Yeah. So building a house is a big project, and I'm trying to link this to my Glamour, which I said was probably workshop leader, thinking I know best, I know what's best for you, irrespective of what you may think. That's what I'm going to teach, because I think I know best what's for you. I don't need your help. Whereas actually raising a house, that is a community event, and it gets done much quicker, possibly more effectively, I imagine more effectively, than my trying to do it all myself.
Let's have a look at the image of the house raising first. It's to do with a bunch of people, or sharing a project as a community and working together to save this person's homelessness risk. That's rather similar to having a group project to save the world from climate change. It's that kind of thing. Let's all work together to deal with this difficult problem. That's the issue here. And if you were in the exaltation of your role as a leader, a workshop leader, would you be promoting that idea of collectively working together?
It's something I would want. I would think was a good idea and would promote it, yes, but I wouldn't. I would also want to believe that I could do it myself without any help. Does that make sense?
Okay, the perhaps two separate things. The first thing is that as a workshop leader, would you sponsor the idea of working together towards the service of humanity? Is that
yes.
your thing? Is that my thing?
Yes.
Are you sure about that? When have I ever said anything other than be selfish, do whatever you want? I mean, that's what I'm teaching, isn't it? I don't actually say, let's work together to save the world. I've never said that. It's inferred that I mean that, because why wouldn't we? But I don't ever say that. Because what I say is, unless you actually deal with your own needs first and you become powerful as an individual, you're not going to be able to do anything for anyone. That's actually my wisdom.
Okay.
Whereas in your case, you know, you get together with a group of people having an idea of saving the world, and you know, various of your projects over the years have failed because the individuals haven't worked out their own personal stuff before they try and save the world. That's one or two of the things you've done, as I remember.
Yeah, I know what you think.
What was that big one with
Omni-world view?
Yeah, they were all about saving the world, and they didn't work on themselves, that group of people, you know. So that might be one of your glamours, that you'd like to be somebody with a reputation of saving the world. That's not my number, is it? I just,
No.
you know, I try individuals to awaken individually. So I'm not saying that you know, I've got my own illusion, but it's a different one for yours. We can come to that in a minute. But your illusion as a workshop leader is saving the world.
Yes.
Raising the bar, and that's how you present it, and that I got a different illusion to be getting on with.
Right. Yep.
Any other comments for Richard?
I was kind of picturing in the house raising or the barn raising, everybody's working together, but there is like a foreman, a leader to organize everybody. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There's usually at least one who's like in charge of everybody's, you know, do what they're doing.
Yeah, there it is. That's squared the circle with Linda. She's answered your point. You'd like to save the world as long as it's understood that you're doing the one to say that you're the one that's actually the more important savior than anyone else.
Yeah, we're gonna save it this way.
Well, you're allowed all of this. You got the moon in Leo. You know, you moon's in Leo. You're just never going to be persuaded that you're the same as the rest of us. You know? Get on with it. we let you do it. Okay, I'll tell you mine now. Mine is Libra 18. 2 men placed under arrest. The result of going beyond acceptable limits. Accepting the consequences of our misdemeanors. So I am somebody who goes beyond acceptable limits, and I don't expect anyone to be able to stop me. That's my glamour. That's my illusion.
Tie that in then with your what you did for Richard, as you tied that in with the workshop leader.
Well, as a workshop leader, I almost always, much more than just frequently, almost always refute common belief, accepted standards, not only of wisdom, but also of behavior. I'm always telling people to break the rules, always telling people that previous wisdom is nonsense. That's what I do. And I back up my claims with arguments. I basically say, look, Christianity is a load of bollocks. You know, I could put the wisdom of Christianity on the back of an A4 sheet, and I really mean that. As to Islam, I never speak against it, because you get a fatwa against you, and it's dangerous, you know. But I frequently speak against accepted traditional wisdom, and as a society and so on, you know, I'm one of the few people in this group that's unvaccinated, for example. You know, good on you. Oh, this is how many are unvaccinated here? 3 of us. That's better than before.
Not vaccinated. You're
not vaccinated.
You're not, like.
Great. I'm proud of you. And this is controversy, isn't it? I mean, like in this group, it's well, I mean, the reason why this group is, you know, kind of what it is because I speak as somebody who is championing the margins. I'm actually saying, look, we're the weirdos, you know, let's be weird. That's what I represent. There's nothing mainstream about me at all. And I don't expect to have any consequences of this. That's my illusion. I don't think I'm going to have to pay a price for this. I think I'll get away with it. In fact, my Sufi teacher once said, James, he said, you behave as though you're naughty. All of the time, you behave as though you're getting away with something. And he was wagging his finger at me as if that was a problem. And I was thinking, oh, thank you. Absolutely. Well, you know, George Orwell said, when you're living in a world of lies, telling the truth is a rebellious act. And I feel like that, just because society is so corrupt, anyone who actually says to society, no, I'm not doing it your way, is a hero. You know, let's break the rules, because the rules are in place to keep the power possessors in power. And I refute that. So that's my game.
Mhm.
Okay. Anything more to say on this subject of Neptune?
I have a question. So when I do the Sabian Mysteries calculator, and, you know, I get the Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, whatever, you know, that whole list. But then there's also like per planet a list. So I guess I'm trying to understand like Neptune in that initial list, which I called my sun, which I don't know if that's correct, versus the Neptune that has its own list.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody else is confused by that.
Yes, everyone that I've talked to so far, this is so very subtle and advanced. What astrologers often do is they just take an idea and they just explode it. And that's what's happened with this elven star. And certain people have been looking at the elven star of their Ceres or Chiron or something, and they don't even know what that symbol really means. They got an idea, but they don't really know. And I think that most of us don't know what the sun sign means. And we've got this whole building of astrology based on very, very shaky foundations. And so what we're doing at the moment is studying septiles of the sun. And in order for us to study septiles of the sun, which is what our elven star is, we first have to understand the sun itself in its Sabian mystery. That is a hugely demanding task. Do I really know what it's like to be an old man vainly attempting to reveal the mysteries? Yeah, I got an idea, but really? And then the septiles of that gives me a really deep sense of what that actually does mean. And our group is based on the idea that it's going to take us a very long time to understand the 7 septiles of the sun. This will take us a year in the Elven Star Masterclass group. And when we've got that, and we've really got what the sun is and what septiles are, and how to get 7 things in our head all at the same time, you know, so we have to look at the Elven Star and see the theme which is within it. And Richard and I will be working on that next Monday, won't we? When you've got such a profound understanding of your 7 Sabian symbols, such that you get the theme of it, and you know how that theme has acted out in 7 different life strands of your being, then you've got the mystery of the sun. And that'll take at least a year, and maybe not available to most people. Then we are ready to study the moon.
Okay.
And that will lead us into an exploration into what was going on when we were not yet born in the womb of the mother, and in the first 6 months of our life, and how that unfolded as an emotional attitude, our addictions, our habits, all of these things. And it's all unconscious. That's not going to be as easy as the sun, which is going to take at least a year. So then we can move on to Mercury, then we can move on to Venus, and eventually, some 10, 15 years from now, maybe we'll get to the Elven Star of Neptune and know what we're talking about. So that's the question you've just asked me. What is the Elven Star of your Neptune? I just don't know. I got ideas. I've written some notes on it. I can tell you what I've written, but it's all theory. Yeah, I've worked it out that this should be meaningful, but we need to test it in practice, and then I'll rewrite the book. So I will answer your question, however. The first point of the Elven Star of the planet Neptune is your illusion. That's what we've been studying today, the glamour, the illusion. Also, your relationship with disillusionment. So we have all today been experiencing disillusionment to some extent, and it's not been an easy job. Clear-sightedness in mysticism, confusion about normal standards. All of these issues have come up today because we've been studying the first point of the Elven Star of our Neptune. In other words, the Sabian degree of your Neptune is the first point of its Elven Star. Now we move on to the second point, our glamour and ability to mystify. So the projection of the glamour onto the people that you meet. Reading between the lines, so understanding somebody else's hoax, not being drawn in by somebody else's glamour, but seeing through it. Empathy, telepathy, and being an illusionist. In other words, creating an atmosphere by changing the tone of your voice, and being able to be with a group of people who know that you're doing it, who want not to be caught up in your illusion, but who are completely unable to guard against your ability. And we can all do it. We all do that. The third, the love of dreams and dreams of love, fairy story, romance. The fourth point, finesse, seamless transformation, escape, inability or unwillingness to confront or commit, powerful dreams and vision. The fifth point might be utopian visions of a spiritual world, dreaming big, shared dreams, mystical awareness, hidden maneuvering. Sixth point, the forgiveness is at a saintly level, self-sacrifice, martyr in the true sense of the word, not the cynical sense, loss of focus, very dreamy. And the seventh point would be a shimmering between the worlds of fact and fantasy, ungroundedness, mystical beauty, loss of self, or awe. So if you study all of those things and you know how all of those seven operate within you, and you can see the theme that's within you as you study that, then you will be into a heightened level of Neptune consciousness. You basically be a mystic, really, to be able to do that. And yeah, I absolutely hope we get there one day, but I'm not going to race there and say I know what I'm teaching, because, you know, my illusion as a workshop leader has got limits. I am not enlightened. I consider myself to be realized by the definition that I use for the term, in that I'm not under the illusion that reality is the way it seems. I'm not caught up in that, but I'm not enlightened, nor do I ever expect to become so in this lifetime. Katrina.
I read on your site that you can put, instead of sun degree, MC degree, and then look at your career in this septile, and also put North Node instead of sun degree, and then souls, discover your soul's path according to 7.
That's the case. You can do that, and people will do that. They want to do that, and the people that read the website will just do that and have a lot of fun with it. But this group of people, you can do that, but I want you to know that if you really want to understand the meaning, then we'll do it slowly, we'll do it properly. Then you won't get caught up in the idea that we can understand things that cannot yet be understood. I mean, it's a difficult thing, but people will want to do it. They will do it, whether I want them to or not. I wish they didn't do it, but they will do it. So I have to represent something.